My son walked into my kitchen and said, "Mom, I need money right now.
I'm
Selling your house. People are coming to buy it tomorrow. You need to pack everything today." But I just smiled at him. He had no idea that I already sold the house myself. I'm so happy you're watching this video. Please stay until the end to hear what happened. And tell me in the comments what city you're watching from. I want to see how many people hear my story. My name is Dorothy Miller. I'm 74 years old. I worked as a nurse for 40 years at St. Mary's Hospital. I live in a beautiful house with a big front yard. My husband, Robert, built this house with his own hands 45 years ago. Robert died 6 years ago from a heart problem. After he died, I lived alone in our house. The house has 3 bedrooms and a nice kitchen. It's too big for just me, but I loved living there. Every room reminded me of Robert. I could take care of myself just fine, could drive my car, could cook my food, could clean my house. My retirement money was enough to pay for everything. I had my garden where I grew tomatoes and flowers. My son Marcus visited me sometimes, not very much. Maybe once every few weeks. He works selling insurance. My husband Robert always wanted Marcus to have a good job. Marcus got married to a woman named Jessica 10 years ago. Jessica always wore fancy clothes and carried expensive purses. She never smiled like she meant
it.
They don't have any kids. Jessica says she's too busy with her job at a makeup company. One day in early spring, something strange happened. Marcus came to my house on a Wednesday morning. He never visits on Wednesday. He walked around my house looking at everything very carefully. He touched the walls. He looked at my new bathroom. He went outside and looked at my big backyard. Then Marcus said, "Mom, did you ever think about moving to a smaller place? This house is worth a lot of money now. Everyone wants to buy houses like this." I told him, "Marcus, I don't want to move. Your father and I made this house our home. I'm happy here." Marcus looked at Jessica. She was with him that day. Jessica made that fake smile again and said, "But Dorothy, what about the stairs? What if you fall down and get hurt? This house is dangerous for old people." I said I was fine. I could walk upstairs with no problem. I was strong and healthy, but I could see they were planning something. The next few weeks, Marcus called me on the phone many times. Every time he called, he talked about selling my house. He said I should move to a small apartment. He said I should be smart about money. Then one afternoon, I was going to make a phone
Call.
I picked up my phone in the living room, but Marcus was already talking on the other phone upstairs. He must have called my cell phone that I left in my bedroom. I heard Marcus talking to someone. He said, "This house will sell for at least $900,000. After we sell it, we'll put Mom in Valley View Senior Home. Those places cost about $3,000 every month. We'll still have more than $700,000 left over for us." Then I heard Jessica's voice. She said, "Your mom won't want to do it. She's too stubborn." Marcus said something that made my heart hurt. He said, "She doesn't get to choose.
Eva.
Been reading about it. If we can prove she can't think clearly anymore, we can make all the decisions for her." I put the phone down very quietly. My hands were shaking. My own son wanted to say I was crazy. He wanted to take my house. He wanted to put me in an old people's home while he took all my money. That night, I couldn't sleep at all. I laid in bed thinking about everything. I felt so sad and scared. But when the sun came up in the morning, I wasn't scared anymore. I was angry. I decided to fight back. I taught health classes to patients for many years. I knew how to read and learn about things. I knew how to make a plan. If Marcus wanted my house, he would have to fight me first. The next 2 weeks, I started making phone calls to people who could help me. I called a lawyer named David Kim.
I met
him at the community center where I play cards on Fridays. I told him everything about what Marcus was planning. David Listen to my whole story. He looked worried for me. Then David said, Dorothy, if you're scared your son will. Try to say you're not able to think right. You need to show everyone that you can think right. You need to write down everything that happens. And if you're thinking about selling your house, you should do it yourself. Do it the way you want. That's when I got my idea. I called a woman who sells houses. Her name is Betty Torres. I told Betty I wanted to sell my house, but I wanted to keep it quiet. I didn't want everyone to know yet. Betty understood.
She said she
Knew some people who buy houses to fix them up and sell them again. In just 5 days, I found a man who wanted to buy my
house.
His name was Mr. Chin. He owned a construction company. He wanted to fix up my house and make it nice for a new family. We agreed on $920,000. We decided I would give him the house in 2 months. I went to the bank and made a new account. Marcus didn't know about this bank account. All the money from selling my house would go there. But I didn't tell Marcus any of this. I wanted to see what he would do. I wanted to see how far he would go with his bad plan. The answer came one hot day in June.
I
Was outside watering my flowers when Marcus's car pulled up. He got out by himself. Jessica wasn't there today.
His
Face looked mean and determined. He walked up to me fast and said, Mom, we need to talk right now. I put down my watering can and said, Talk about what? Marcus. He took a big breath. Then he said the words I was waiting to hear.
I
Need money really badly. I already told someone they can buy your house. They're coming tomorrow to see it. You have 1 day to pack all your things and get ready to leave. I looked at my son. This was the same little boy I took care of
when he was sick.
the same boy I helped with his homework, the same boy I paid to send to college. Now he looked at me like I was just something in his way. And I smiled because Marcus didn't know. I already sold the house myself. Marcus looked confused when he saw me smile.
He
Said, Mom, did you hear what I said? This isn't funny. The person who wants to buy the house is coming tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the morning. I asked him calmly, Who is this person who sells houses for you? He said, His name is Tom Bradley. He works at Prime Real Estate Company. I gave him permission to sell your house yesterday. I kept my voice calm and asked, How did you get permission to sell my house? Don't I have to sign papers first? Marcus stopped for just a second, but I saw it. Then he said, I have legal power, Mom. Dad set it up before he died. It means I can make decisions for you.
that was a lie.
Robert and I talked about legal papers like that, but we never actually made them. Marcus was lying. He was hoping I wouldn't remember or that I wouldn't question him. I asked quietly, So, when does my furniture get moved? Where do all my things go? Marcus said, We'll put everything in a storage
Building.
You won't need much stuff at Valley View. They give you furniture there. He tried to make his voice sound nice and said, Mom, I know this is hard for you, but it's the right thing to do. You'll be safe at Valley View. And Jessica, and I can visit you more.
More lies.
They didn't want to visit me. They wanted my money. That's all they wanted. I asked him, When do I have to leave? He said, The house sale finishes in 2 weeks, but the buyers want to see it empty tomorrow, so you should start packing everything now. He pulled out his phone and said, I'll have Jessica come help you pack. I said firmly,
No.
I'll do it myself. Marcus looked relieved. He probably didn't want Jessica to come.
Anyway.
She would just want to take my jewelry and nice things. He said, Okay, I'll come check on you tomorrow after the people see the house. Then he left quickly. Maybe he was scared I would start crying or get angry. I watched his car drive away. Then I went inside and locked all the doors. My hands were steady when I picked up my phone. Called David Kim right away.
I said. He did.
David. He says he has legal papers that let him control my money. He says he's selling my house. David asked me, Does he really have those legal papers? I said, "No, Robert, and I never made those papers." David's voice got serious. He said, "Then Marcus broke the law, Dorothy. This is very serious.
He
Could go to jail for this." I said, "Good. What do I do now?" David told me what to do. First, I needed to write down everything that happened. I should record Marcus talking if I could.
I
Should save all text messages. Second, I needed to call Tom Bradley and tell him Marcus had no right to sell my property. Third, I needed to protect my bank accounts right away. David also said, "Dorothy, you need to be ready. This is going to get really bad. When families fight about money and houses, people get very mean." I spent 2 months getting ready. I knew it would get bad. After I finished talking to David, I made more phone calls. First, I called Betty Torres. I made sure our house sale was still happening on July 20th. That was 2 weeks away. Second, I called my bank.
I
Changed all my passwords. I made it so Marcus couldn't see any of my bank information anymore. Third, I called Tom
Bradley.
I said, "Mr. Bradley, this is Dorothy Miller. I heard my son Marcus told you to sell my house at 1455 Oakwood Street." Tom Bradley sounded
Happy.
He said, "Oh yes, Mrs. Miller. It's such a lovely house. We have people coming to see it tomorrow morning." I said, "Mr. Bradley, my son doesn't have permission to sell my house. He doesn't have any legal papers that say he can. I'm healthy, and I make my own choices. I haven't agreed to sell my house to you." There was silence on the phone. Then Tom said, "But Mrs. Miller, your son showed me papers that proved he could make decisions for you." I said, "Those papers are fake. I think you should talk to your lawyer before tomorrow. This house is already being sold to someone else. If you bring people to my house tomorrow, I'll call the police and say you're trying to break in." I hung up before he could say anything else.
My
Heart was pounding, but my hand stayed still and calm. This was just the start. Later that afternoon, my phone rang.
It was Marcus calling.
I let it ring 4 times before I answered. Marcus was yelling. He said, "Mom, what did you
Do.
Tom Bradley just called me and said, you threatened him." I said calmly, "I told him the truth, Marcus. You don't have legal papers. You can't sell my house." Marcus said, "Mom, I'm trying to help you." I said, "No, you're trying to steal from me. I heard you talking on the phone with Jessica in April. I know exactly what you're planning." Marcus was quiet. Then his voice got cold and mean. He said, "You're making a big mistake. You're not thinking right. Jessica and I are coming to your house right now. We're going to talk sense into you." I said, "Don't come here. My lawyer knows everything. If you come to my house without asking, first I'll call the police." I hung up on him. Then I blocked his number so he couldn't call me anymore. I sat down in Robert's old chair. My whole body was shaking. This was my son, my only child. And now we were fighting like enemies. But I had no choice. He started this fight when he decided I was just a way to get money. Now it was my turn to protect myself. The next morning, I put on my best blue dress, the one I used to wear to important meetings at the hospital. I needed to look like someone who was smart and in control. At 9 in the morning, David Kim came to my house. He brought another man named Carlos Mendez. Carlos was a notary.
That
Means he watches people sign important papers. David said, "Dorothy, today, we're going to make papers that prove you're in charge of your own life. First, we'll make papers that say I'm your lawyer, not Marcus. Second, we'll have you talk to Dr. Sarah Williams. She's a doctor who checks if old people can think clearly. She'll write a report that says you're perfectly fine."
I
Asked, "Can Marcus say these papers are wrong?" David said he can try, but Dr. Williams has done this many times. Her reports always hold up in court. "You're going to be fine, Dorothy. You're smarter than most young people I work with. Carlos watched me sign each paper. The legal papers said clearly that Marcus Henderson couldn't make any decisions about my health or my money.
I
Felt good signing my name on those papers. At 11 in the morning, Dr. Williams arrived. She was a short woman, with kind eyes. She looked about 60 years old. For an hour and a half,
she
asked me lots of questions. She asked about the news. She asked me to do math problems. She asked me to remember
things.
She asked me what I would do with my money. I answered every question correctly. Finally, Dr. Williams said, "Mrs. Miller, you think more clearly than most 40-year-old people I test. Your son has no reason at all to say you.
Can't think right.
You're completely fine." After she left, David and I drank coffee in my kitchen. He said, "Now comes the hard part. We need to get proof of what Marcus has been doing. We need to see the fake legal papers he showed Tom Bradley. We need those papers." I asked, "How do we get them?" David said, "We ask the court to make Tom Bradley give them to us. I'm going to ask the judge for a protection order against Marcus. That will force Tom Bradley to show us the papers Marcus gave him. It will also tell Marcus that he can't bother you anymore." My phone
buzzed.
A text message came from a number I didn't know. I opened it, and my stomach felt sick. The message said, "Mom, this is Jessica. Marcus can't call you, but I can. We need to talk about how crazy you're acting. You're confused and making terrible choices. We love you and want to help, but you're pushing us away. Call me back." I showed David the message. He took a picture of it with his phone. He said, "Save everything. Every text message, every voicemail, every email. This proves they're bothering you." At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, someone knocked on my front door really hard. I looked through the little window in the door. Marcus and Jessica were standing on my porch. Marcus was hitting the door with his fist. He yelled, "Mom, open this door.
Right now.
We need to talk." I didn't answer. I just stood there watching. Through the little window, Marcus's face was getting red. He was so angry. Jessica put her hand on his arm and whispered something to him. Marcus pulled out his phone. My phone started ringing, but I had blocked his number so the call didn't come through. Marcus yelled at the door, "This is crazy.
I'm
Your son. You can't just ignore me." David walked over to the window.
He was
recording everything with his phone. He called out, "Mr. Henderson, I'm David.
Kim.
I'm Mrs. Miller's lawyer. Your mother doesn't want to talk to you.
If
you don't leave right now, we're calling the police. You're trespassing on her property." Marcus turned and looked at the window where David was standing. He yelled, "Who are you?" "My mom doesn't need a lawyer," David said calmly. "Apparently she does. Leave now or I'm calling 911. Jessica grabbed Marcus's arm harder and said, "Come on, let's go. This isn't working." They walked to their car, but before getting in, Marcus turned around and shouted, "You're going to be sorry, Mom, when you have no place to live because you can't pay for this house. Don't come crying to us for help." David recorded the whole thing on video. That night, David emailed me the court papers he wrote. I read through all of it. It explained everything Marcus did wrong. How he lied, how he bothered me, how he tried to steal my house. Tomorrow, David would give these papers to the court. David called me and said, "Dorothy, there's no going back. After this, once we give these papers to the court, everyone can read them. Your relationship with Marcus will probably never be okay again." I thought about Marcus when he was a little boy. He used to pick flowers for me from the yard. I thought about when he was a teenager and Robert taught him to drive. I thought about where that sweet boy went. I wondered who this angry, greedy man was now. I said to David, "File the papers." The point of no return wasn't some big, dramatic moment. It was just me sitting quietly in my house, saying it was okay to tell the truth to the judge, but I felt something break inside me. The last Little bit of hope that Marcus would change was finally gone. The next morning, David called me with news.
He
Said, "Dorothy, we got lucky. Tom Bradley kept copies of everything Marcus gave him. There's a paper that has your signature on it. It says Marcus can make decisions for you." I said, "But I never signed that." David said, "Exactly. It's a
fake signature.
Now, we have proof that Marcus broke the law. I'm also making a police report for you. Evidence. Cold, clear evidence that couldn't be argued.
With
My son was a criminal, and now I could prove it. The sale of my house happened exactly like we planned. On July 20th, I went to Betty Torres's office. I signed all the final papers. Mr. Chun gave me a check for $920,000. I took the check straight to my new bank and put it in my new account, one that Marcus knew nothing about. I had already found my next home. It was a cute little house with 2 bedrooms near Riverside Park. It was 2 miles away from my old neighborhood. The house cost $350,000. I paid for the whole thing with cash. The rest of the money, over $500,000, I put in safe investments. This money, plus my retirement money, meant I would have plenty to live on. I'd be very comfortable. But I hadn't told Marcus any of this. He still thought I was living at 1455 Oakwood Street. He thought I was still refusing to move. That's exactly what I wanted him to think. 2 days after I sold my house, David called me. He said, "Dorothy, the court hearing for the protection order is on July 28th. Marcus got the papers from the court. He also got a call from a police detective about the fake
signature."
I asked, how did Marcus react? David said his lawyer called me. "Marcus is saying this is all a misunderstanding. He says he was just trying to help you. He says the fake signature must have been a mistake his secretary made." David's voice sounded like he didn't believe it. "Nobody's buying that excuse. The handwriting expert says the fake signature is very obvious." That afternoon, my doorbell rang at my new house. I knew this would happen. Through the window, I saw Marcus and Jessica standing at my old house. They didn't know I had moved. I was at my old house picking up the last of my things. I opened the door and said, "Marcus, Jessica, you're not supposed to be here. I don't live here anymore." Marcus's face turned white. He said, "What do you mean you don't live here anymore?" I said, "I sold the house. The new owners are getting the keys next
week.
You should leave before they come to measure the rooms." Marcus started yelling. "You sold it to who? For how much money?" I said calmly, "That's none of your business." Jessica stepped forward. Her eyes looked scary.
She
said, "Dorothy, you stupid old woman. Do you know what you've done?" Marcus needed that money. We needed it. I asked coldly. "Needed it for what?" "To pay your credit card bills. To pay for your fancy car." "That's not my problem." Jessica hissed at me like a snake. "You selfish woman. We took care of you. We visited you. We made time for you when we had better things to do." I interrupted her. "You visited once a month for 1 hour, and only when you wanted to pressure me about my house. Don't pretend you did it. Because you loved me." Marcus grabbed Jessica's arm, but his face was twisted with anger. He said, "Fine. You want to play it this way? I'll take you to court. I'll tie up all that money in court for years. You'll never see a penny of it." I asked calmly, "Take me to court for what? You have no legal right to my house or my money." Marcus yelled, "I'll tell the judge you were crazy when you sold it. I'll find doctors who will say you have brain problems." I said I was already tested by Dr. Sarah Williams. She's a doctor who tests old people's brains. Her report says I'm completely fine. The report is already filed with the court. I saw Marcus's face fall. His plan was falling apart. Jessica's voice changed. "Got sweet and fake." She said, "Dorothy, you don't want to do this. If Marcus goes to jail, you'll never see your son again. You'll die all alone with no family.
Is
That what you want? For a second, I felt scared. I was afraid of dying. Alone, afraid of having nobody. But then I remembered the phone call I heard in April. I remembered how cold their voices sounded when they talked about me. They didn't love me. They loved my money, I said quietly. If the only way to have family is to let you rob me, then I'd rather be alone. Marcus's face got hard and mean. He said, "You haven't heard the last of this, Mom. I'll make your life terrible. Every friend you have, every neighbor, I'll tell them you're crazy. I'll tell them you're mentally sick. I'll ruin your reputation." I said, "Go ahead and try. Have a lawyer. I have papers that prove everything. I have witnesses. You just have lies." Jessica turned back and said, "You're going to regret this. We'll make sure you do." Then they left. After they drove away, I sat in my empty old living room. I was shaking for 20 minutes. Fighting with them took all my energy. Yes, I stood up to them, but it hurt so much. My hands shook as I locked up the old house for the last time. Then I drove to my new little house by the park. For the next 3 days, I didn't answer my phone. I didn't check my email. I just sat in my new living room looking out the window. I tried to understand what happened. My son hated me now. My daughter-in-law called me stupid to my face. This was my family. David came to check on me. He brought me groceries and made sure I was eating food. He said, "You did the right thing, Dorothy. I know it doesn't make the hurt go away." I said to him, "I keep thinking about when Marcus was little. He was such a sweet, kind boy.
what?
Happened to him?" David said, "Life happened. Greed happened. It's not your fault, Dorothy." But it still felt like I failed somehow, like I did something wrong as a mother. On the 4th day, I got a text message. It was from Marcus's number. I had unblocked it because David wanted to see any messages Marcus sent. This message was different. It was softer and nicer. It said, "Mom, I'm sorry about what happened. Can we please talk? Love you. I don't want to lose
You.
I showed the message to David when he called that night.
David said, right.
Away, he's changing his plan. The threats didn't work. So now he's trying to make you feel guilty. He said, "Don't answer yet. Let's see what else he sends." Another message came that night. It said, "I've been thinking about Dad a lot. He wouldn't want us to fight like this. Can I take you to lunch tomorrow? Just you and me." "No, Jessica, please, Mom." I felt pulled
Towards saying yes.
Marcus was talking about his father. He wanted just the two of us to meet. Part of me really wanted to believe he meant it, that my real son was still in there somewhere under all the greed. But then I remembered his voice on that phone call. "She doesn't have to choose." I remembered Jessica's words. "You stupid old woman."
I
Remembered the fake signature. I didn't answer his message. 2 days later, flowers came to my door. There were 30 red carnations. Those were my favorite flowers. The card said, "I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Please let me fix this. Love, Marcus." I gave the flowers to my new neighbor, Linda. Sat in my new living room looking out the window. I tried to understand what happened. My son hated me now. My daughter-in-law called me stupid to my face. This was my family. David came to check on me. He brought me groceries and made sure I was eating food. He said, "You did the right thing, Dorothy. I know it doesn't make the hurt go away." I said to him, "I keep thinking about when Marcus was little. He was such a sweet, kind boy."
what?
Happened to him? David said, "Life happened. Greed happened. It's not your fault, Dorothy." But it still felt like I failed somehow, like I did something wrong as a mother. On the 4th day, I got a text message. It was from Marcus's number. I had unblocked it because David wanted to see any messages Marcus sent. This message was different. It was softer and nicer. It said, "Mom, I'm sorry about what happened. Can we please talk? Love you. I don't want to lose."
You.
I showed the message to David when he called that night.
David said, right.
Away, he's changing his plan. The threats didn't work. So now he's trying to make you feel guilty. He said, "Don't answer yet. Let's see what else he sends." Another message came that night. It said, "I've been thinking about Dad a lot. He wouldn't want us to fight like this. Can I take you to lunch tomorrow? Just you and me." "No, Jessica, please, Mom." I felt pulled
Toward saying yes.
Marcus was talking about his father. He wanted just the two of us to meet. Part of me really wanted to believe he meant it, that my real son was still in there somewhere under all the greed. But then I remembered his voice on that phone call. She doesn't have to choose. I remembered Jessica's words. "You stupid old woman."
I
Remembered the fake signature. I didn't answer his message. 2 days later, flowers came to my door. There were 30 red carnations. Those were my favorite flowers. The card said, "I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Please let me fix this. Love, Marcus." I gave the flowers to my new neighbor, Linda. She was a widow, about 68 years old. She had become my first friend in this new neighborhood. Linda looked at the card and then looked at me with understanding eyes. She asked, "From your son?" Said, "Yes." Linda asked, "The one who tried to steal your house?" I had told Linda the whole story one day when we had tea together. She listened to everything without judging me. Then she said something simple but true. "My nephew tried something like this after my husband died. Some children start seeing their parents as money to take instead of people to love." Now, holding the flowers, Linda asked me, "Are you tempted to forgive him?" I admitted yes. "He's still my son," Linda said gently. "He's also the man who faked your signature and tried to sell your house without telling you. Flowers are cheap. Respect takes work to earn." That night, Marcus called from a different phone number I didn't know.
I
Answered without thinking. Marcus said, "Mom, please don't hang up." His voice sounded tired and sad. "I know I messed up really bad. I know I hurt you. We had money problems and I made terrible choices, but I love you. You're my mother. Can we please talk in person? I'll come wherever you are." I asked, "How did you get this number?"
He
Paused, then said, "I called some of your friends from church. They gave it to me." So he had been calling people I knew, tracking me down. That made me feel scared and uncomfortable. I said, "Marcus, I can't trust you right now." He said, "I know I understand, but please give me a chance to earn your trust back. Let me prove I've changed." He took a breath. "I've been seeing a therapist. I'm working on being a better person. I want to be a good son again." Sounded good. Sounded real. But I had been a nurse for 40 years. I knew the difference between someone who was really sorry and someone who just didn't want to get in trouble.
I said,
Carefully, "If you're serious about changing, then you'll stop all the court stuff against me. You'll tell the police. You made a mistake with the papers and you'll leave me alone while you work on yourself." Marcus said, "Mom, I can't just admit to breaking the law." I said, "Then you're not really sorry. You're just sorry you got caught." Hung up the phone. My hands didn't shake this time. David called the next morning. He had news. Dorothy Marcus' lawyer asked the judge to drop the protection order. "They're saying this is just a family argument that doesn't need court."
"The
"Hearing is tomorrow," I asked. "Will they win?" David said, "Not a chance.
we have
Proof of the fake papers, the harassment, and the threats. But Dorothy, you need to be ready
you have
to talk to the judge." Marcus will be in the courtroom. The hearing was in a small courtroom at the county courthouse. I wore my blue dress again. I got there with David. Marcus was already there with his lawyer. His lawyer was a sharp-looking woman about 45 years old. Marcus looked tired. He looked older than his 43 years. When he saw me walk in, something showed on his face. Maybe pain, maybe regret.
But then,
Jessica came into the courtroom and sat next to him. His face got hard again. The judge was a serious woman named Judge Patricia Sanchez. She looked at all the evidence quickly. David showed her everything. The fake papers with my signature, the text messages from Jessica, the video of Marcus pounding on my door, letters from Tom Bradley, and Dr. Williams. Marcus's lawyer tried to say this was just a family disagreement that got blown up too big. But Judge Sanchez wasn't impressed. She looked right at Marcus and said, "Mr. Henderson, you faked your mother's signature on legal papers. You tried to sell her house without her permission. This court doesn't think that's just a disagreement." The judge said the protection order is approved for 1
year.
You can't contact Mrs. Miller at all unless she contacts you first.
If
You break this rule, you'll be arrested right away. Marcus stood up fast.
he
Started to say, "Your Honor, this
is,
But Judge Sanchez said firmly, "Sit down, Mr. Henderson, or I'll hold you in contempt of court." Marcus sat down, but the look he gave me was full of pure hate. Outside the courthouse, David squeezed my hand. He said, "You did it, Dorothy. He can't hurt you now."
that
Evening, Linda came over with a bottle of grape juice. We sat on my new porch looking at the park across the street.
I
Felt something relax inside my chest. Linda said, "I have a book club next Thursday. Would you like to join us? We're reading a book about a woman who survived hard times." I said, "I'd like that very much."
and I meant it.
I was making a new life, a life without Marcus, without Jessica, without the weight of their demands and lies.
And
For the first time in months, I felt free. But I should have known the protection order wouldn't be enough. 3 weeks later, I came home from the grocery store. Jessica was sitting on my porch steps. When she saw my car, she stood up. Her hands were up like she was surrendering. She said, "Dorothy, please, don't call the police. I just want to talk." Woman Tomon. The protection order only said Marcus couldn't contact me. It didn't say anything about Jessica. Technically, she wasn't breaking any rules, but every part of me said this was a trap. I asked, "How did you find my house?" Jessica said, "It doesn't matter. Please just give me 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." She looked tired. Her makeup wasn't as perfect as usual. She said, "I know, Marcus, and I hurt you. I know we made huge mistakes, but I want to fix this." Against my better judgment, I unlocked
my door.
I said, "Fine, 5 minutes. We'll talk inside where my camera can record
Us.
Jessica blinked in surprise but followed me inside. I had cameras in my house now. David told me to get them. I pointed to the couch for Jessica to sit. I stayed standing. I said, "Say what you came to say." Jessica took a breath. "Dorothy, Marcus, and I are in big trouble. Real trouble. We owe $200,000
On
credit cards. Marcus' business is failing. He made some bad choices with money. We're going to lose our house unless we can pay what we owe." She stopped talking for a second. "That's why we were so desperate about your house," I said quietly. "That's not my problem," Jessica said. I know it's not your problem. But Dorothy, we're family. Marcus is your son, your only child, and I'm begging you. Please help us. Just loan us some money. Even a little bit. We'll pay you back. I promise." I asked, "Pay me back with what money?" Jessica said, "We'll figure it out.
We're
Working with someone now to fix our money problems." Her eyes got watery. "Please, if we lose everything, Marcus will be destroyed. He won't be able to handle it, and that will be on your conscience forever."
There it was, the
Manipulation, making me responsible for Marcus's failures, making me feel guilty for problems they created. I said, "Jessica, if Marcus loses everything, it's because of choices he made, Not because of me. Her face changed just a little bit. A flash of anger showed before she hid it. You're his mother. How can you be so cold and heartless? I said. I loved my son. I would have done anything for him when he was growing up. But he chose to lie to me.
He chose to.
Steal from me. He chose to fake my signature. That's not my fault, Jessica.
Said.
He was desperate. I said. So he decided to make me homeless instead.
To.
Put me in an old people's home so he could take my money. I shook my head. No, I'm sorry you have money problems, Jessica. I really am, but I won't destroy myself to save you. Jessica stood up fast.
Her whole face changed.
Fine. Let me be honest with you then. Her voice lost all the fake niceness. You're 74 years old, Dorothy. You're alone. You have no family except us. When you get sick, and you'll get sick, who's going to take care of you? Who's going to visit you in the hospital? Who's going to make medical decisions when you can't think anymore?
I said. I
have papers that say who makes those decisions. Jessica snapped at me. You have a piece of paper. You don't have people who love you because you threw them away over money. You chose a stupid house over your family. I said firmly. I chose respect over being robbed. Jessica said meanly. You'll die alone, Dorothy. Nobody at your funeral. Nobody to remember you. And it will be your own fault. You're a selfish, bitter old woman who can't forgive. One mistake.
I
felt my anger rise up. One mistake. Jessica, faking someone's signature is a serious crime. Marcus committed fraud. He tried to have me declared crazy so he could steal everything my husband and I worked our whole lives for. That's not a mistake. That's a crime.
My voice got
louder to match hers. Now, get out of my house. Jessica's face twisted up ugly. You'll regret this when you're lying in some nursing home rotting away with nobody to visit you. Remember that we
tried.
We gave you a chance to fix this. You're the one who said no. I said, I'll take my chances. Leave now. Jessica stormed out and slammed the door, so hard that my picture frames shook on the wall. Through the window, I watched her get in her car and drive away really fast. My heart was pounding hard. My hands were shaking as I locked the door. I checked that my camera recorded everything. Did every word, every angry expression, every threat. Called David right away. I said, Jessica just left. She threatened me.
She tried to manipulate me.
Then she said I'd die alone and rotting in a nursing home. David asked, did you get it on camera? I said, every single word. David said, perfect. That's harassment. Send me the video. We can use it if they break the protection order again. David paused. Dorothy, are you okay? I said, honestly, I'm angry, but I'm not scared anymore. That night, I lay in bed, thinking about what Jessica said. Die alone, no family, bitter old woman. Each word was meant to hurt me, to make me doubt myself. But then I thought about Linda and the book club I was joining. I thought about David's loyalty to me. I thought about my old nursing friends who called to check on me. I thought about Betty Torres, who sent me a welcome gift for my new house. I wasn't alone. I had people who really cared about me, not about my bank account, just about me as a person. And yes, maybe I would die without Marcus by my side. But at least I would die with my dignity, with my self-respect intact. That was worth more than any relationship built on lies. The criminal trial for the fake signature and fraud was set for October 20th. David warned me that Marcus' lawyer would try to make a deal with the prosecutor, but the main prosecutor, a tough woman named Angela Martinez, wasn't interested in deals. She told me in a meeting, we have a huge problem with people stealing from elderly people in this county. Your case has clear evidence and good documentation. Frankly, we need to win this case to send a message to others. Your son is going to trial. The courtroom was bigger this time. More people were there. I saw some of Marcus's friends sitting in the room. People I had known for years. They wouldn't look at me. Linda sat behind me on my side. She was there to support me. Marcus walked in wearing a dark suit. His lawyer was with him. He looked thin and older. When he looked at me, I saw desperation in his
eyes.
but I also saw him calculating, still planning something. The trial lasted 3 days. The prosecution showed the fake papers with my signature.
A
Handwriting expert explained in detail how Marcus's way of writing matched the fake signature. Tom Bradley testified about how aggressive Marcus was about selling my house. Dr. Williams testified that my brain was completely fine and I could think clearly. Then it was my turn to talk to the court. Marcus's lawyer, Ms. Peterson, tried to make me look like a confused old woman who misunderstood her son's good intentions. She asked, "Mrs. Miller, isn't it possible you just forgot giving your son permission to help you with your affairs?"
I said.
Clearly, no, I never gave him permission. I didn't forget anything. He faked my signature to steal my house. Ms. Peterson said, "That's a very harsh thing to say about your own son." I said, "It's the truth."
She
Asked, "You're willing to send your only child to prison over a misunderstanding?" I said, "It's not a misunderstanding when there's a fake legal document with my signature on it." I looked right at the jury, 12 people, who would decide Marcus's fate. I said, "My son decided I was in his way. He tried to sell my home without telling me. He tried to put me in a nursing home. He faked my signature on legal papers. Those are facts, not misunderstandings." Peterson tried something else. "Mrs. Miller, you recently sold your house and moved without telling your son. Doesn't that seem like strange behavior? Maybe signs that your brain isn't working right." I said, "I sold my house because I knew my son was trying to steal it from me. I moved without telling him because he faked my signature.
he showed
Me, I couldn't trust him. That's not strange behavior. That's protecting myself." The big moment came when the prosecutor called Marcus to talk.
he
Looked confident walking up to the witness stand. But Ms. Martinez was very skilled at asking questions. She asked, "Mr. Henderson, where did you get the power of attorney document you gave to Tom Bradley?" Marcus said, "I thought my father had prepared it years ago." Ms. Martinez said, "You thought, but you told Mr. Bradley it was valid and current, didn't you?" Marcus said, "I believed it was valid." Ms. Martinez said, "Mr. Henderson, the document is dated March 20th of this year. That's 4 months after your father died. Did your dead father create this document?" Marcus's face turned red. He said, "No. There must have been a mistake somewhere." Ms. Martinez asked sharply, "Yes or no? Did you create that document yourself?" Marcus said, "I was trying to help my mother." Ms. Martinez interrupted, "Yes or no?" Marcus said she wasn't thinking clearly and I needed
to
yes or no. "Did you fake your mother's signature, Sanchi?" Marcus looked at his lawyer, but she couldn't help him. Finally, Marcus said quietly,
yes.
The courtroom exploded with noise. Judge Sanchez banged her gavel and said, "Order. Order in this court." Marcus's face had turned completely white. Ms. Martinez continued asking questions. "Mr. Henderson, how much debt do you currently have?" Marcus said, "That's not relevant to this case." The judge said, "Answer the question, Mr. Henderson." Marcus said, "About $200,000. Ms. Martinez asked, "And you plan to use the money from selling your mother's house to pay that debt?" "Correct." Marcus said, "I plan to help her and solve our money problems." Ms. Martinez said, "That's a yes. Your Honor, the prosecution is finished." Ms. Peterson tried to help Marcus during her turn to ask questions, but the damage was done. Marcus had admitted to faking my signature while on the witness stand. He admitted he needed money desperately. There was nothing left to argue about. The jury talked among themselves for 2 hours. Then they came back. The foreman stood up and said, "Guilty on all counts. Guilty of forgery.
Guilty of fraud.
Guilty of attempted theft." Marcus stood up as the verdict was read.
His
Face was gray like ash. He turned to look at me. What I saw in his eyes wasn't remorse or regret. It was rage, pure anger that I dared to fight back, that I refused to be a victim. Jessica started crying loudly in the courtroom. She was making a big scene. She yelled, "He's not a criminal. He was trying to help his mother. This is wrong. This is so wrong." Judge Sanchez set the sentencing date for November 5th. She said, "Mr. Henderson, you are going to jail right now to wait for sentencing. Bail is revoked." 2 sheriff deputies put handcuffs on Marcus. As they walked him past my row, Jessica lunged toward me, screaming, "This is your fault.
You did this to him.
I hope you're happy. Now, you horrible woman." Linda grabbed my arm as security guards grabbed Jessica and held her back. Linda whispered to me, "She's not worth your time. Let's get you out of here." David walked us through a side door outside in the cold October air. I finally let myself breathe normally. David said, "It's over, Dorothy. You won." I watched. Leaves blow across the courthouse steps in the wind. Somewhere inside that building, my son sat in a jail cell, waiting to be taken to the county jail. I didn't feel happy or victorious.
I
Just felt tired and empty. I said quietly, "It doesn't feel like winning." Linda said softly, "That's because you're a good person with a good heart. But you did the right thing. You protected yourself. You held him accountable for what he did. That matters." Maybe it did matter. Maybe justice was more important than the empty feeling in my chest where a mother's love used to be. On November 5th, Marcus was sentenced to 4 years in state prison. He could apply for parole. After 2 years, Judge Sanchez was very clear during sentencing. She said, "Mr. Henderson, stealing from elderly people is one of the worst crimes in our society. You targeted your own mother, a woman who raised you, a woman who educated you and loved you. You treated her like a bank account to drain. This court views such behavior very seriously." Marcus's lawyer had argued for probation and community service. Anything but prison. Ms. Peterson called people who said nice things about Marcus. They talked about his volunteer work and how kind he was to neighbors. They said he could change and be better. But Ms. Martinez showed evidence I didn't know about. Marcus had opened a credit card in my name 3 years ago. He faked my signature on the application. He charged $18,000 to it. He made tiny payments from my checking account. The payments were so small I never noticed them mixed in with my other bills. Ms. Martinez told the judge, "This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern of stealing that went on for years. Mr. Henderson has been systematically taking money from his mother. He only got more aggressive when she started to figure it out."
that
Information hit me like someone punched me in the stomach. 3 years. He had been stealing from me for 3 years. The judge showed no mercy. She said 4 years in state prison. Additionally, you must pay back $18,000 for the credit card fraud, plus court costs and your mother's legal fees totaling $47,000. You will have no contact with the victim for 10 years after you get out of prison. Marcus's face fell apart.
he
Looked broken. Jessica screamed from the seats where people watched the trial. "This is too much. He's not a monster. Please." But the judge's gavel came down. Final.
and done.
Next came another court case. David filed a lawsuit against both Marcus and Jessica. We sued them for emotional distress, harassment, and working together to commit fraud. Jessica hired her own lawyer now, a young man who seemed overwhelmed by all the evidence against his client. This trial was short. We showed the security Camera video of Jessica's threats. We showed the text messages. We had people testify about their harassment. Jessica's lawyer tried to say she was a victim, too. That Marcus had manipulated her, but the video of her calling me a stupid old woman and threatening me made that defense impossible. The jury said Jessica had to pay me $170,000. Jessica collapsed in the courtroom, crying uncontrollably. Her lawyer said to the judge, "We don't have that kind of money. My client will go bankrupt." The judge replied coldly, "Perhaps she should have thought about that before harassing and threatening the plaintiff. The judgment let me put a lien on their house. I could also take money from Jessica's paychecks." Within 2 months, their house was being foreclosed. Jessica filed for bankruptcy. I heard from people we both knew that Jessica moved to Arizona to live with her brother. She took only her clothes and personal items. Everything else was sold to pay debts and legal fees. Marcus' business partners closed the company while he was in prison. His professional reputation was completely destroyed. Local newspapers covered the trial a lot. One headline said, "Local insurance salesman imprisoned for defrauding mother," but the final piece of justice came from someone I didn't expect. In December, I got a phone call from Marcus' ex-wife, Amy. He'd been married to her for 4 years in his late 20s before Jessica. I barely remembered Amy. She said, "Mrs. Miller, I'm so sorry for what Marcus did to you. I'm calling because I thought you should know something. He did the same thing to me. After our divorce, he faked my signature on a loan application. I only found out when people trying to collect the debt started calling me. I couldn't prove Marcus did it, so I just paid it off and tried to forget about it. But when I read about your case in the newspaper, I realized I should have spoken up." I pause. "I'm sorry I didn't say something sooner." I asked, "Why are you telling me this now?" Amy said, "Because I want you to know you were right to press charges. Marcus isn't a good man who made one mistake. He's someone who hurts people who love him. You stopped him before he could hurt anyone else." Those words stayed with me for a long time. On Christmas Eve, I sat in my little house surrounded by my new friends and community. Linda had invited me to her family dinner. David and his wife came over with sparkling cider and gifts. My old nursing friend Barbara drove up from Denver with her granddaughter. My phone sat on the table, silent. No call from Marcus. No text from Jessica, just peaceful, quiet. Linda found me looking out the window at the snow. She asked gently, "Are you doing okay, Dorothy?" I said, "I'm free." And I meant it. Marcus was in prison. Jessica was bankrupt and living in another state. Their whole scheme had fallen apart completely. More than that, they'd lost everything. Their house, their money, their reputations, their futures. I never wanted revenge. I just wanted justice and safety. But if this was victory, I would accept it without guilt, without regret. They tried to destroy me. Instead, they destroyed themselves. Spring came with warm sunshine and flowers blooming everywhere. I'd been in my little house for almost a year. It felt more like home than the house on Oakwood Street ever did. That old house held memories of Robert, yes, but it also held the shadow of Marcus's betrayal. This place was completely mine. My new life had a nice rhythm that felt natural and peaceful. Every Tuesday, I volunteered at the community library, helping adults learn to read. Every Thursday, the book club met. We'd grown to 13 members, all women who had become real friends. Linda and I took morning walks around the park 4 times a week. David's wife, Maria, taught me how to paint with watercolors. I discovered I was pretty good at painting flowers and trees. The money from selling my old house was invested safely. Between that income and my retirement money, I had more than enough. I even started a small scholarship at St. Mary's Hospital in Robert's name. $6,000 every year for a nursing student who wanted to work in cardiac care. In April, Barbara called from Denver. She said, "Dorothy, I have an idea. My granddaughter Sophie is starting college here in September.
She
Needs a place to live. Would you think about renting your second bedroom to her? She's quiet and responsible, and she loves to bake. I've been thinking about getting a roommate. Not because I needed money, but because I wanted company." Sophie moved in on August 5th. Within a week, we had an easy friendship.
she
Studied late at night while I read books by the fireplace. On Sundays, she made wonderful pancake breakfasts that we ate on the porch. Sophie told me once, "You remind me of my great-grandmother.
she
Was strong like
you.
she didn't let anyone push her around." I said with a smile. "I hope that's a compliment," Sophie said. "It definitely is." Through David, I heard occasional news about Marcus and Jessica. None of it was good. Marcus's parole hearing in November was denied. He'd gotten into several fights with other inmates. He showed no remorse for his crimes. His sentence was extended by 8 months for bad behavior, David reported. He's going to serve the full 4 years, maybe even longer if he doesn't improve his behavior. Jessica's bankruptcy was complete. She'd lost everything: a house, cars, her jewelry. She was working 2 jobs in Arizona, barely making rent on a tiny apartment. But there was more bad news for them. One of Marcus' former business partners filed a lawsuit saying Marcus had stolen money from their insurance firm. An investigation showed Marcus had been stealing from the company for years. He'd been hiding losses and taking client payments for himself. More criminal charges were filed. Marcus would face a second trial after finishing his current prison sentence. David said he's going to be in prison for a very long time. The prosecutor is talking about 10 to 12 years for the embezzlement charges. I felt no happiness hearing this news, just a distant sadness for who Marcus could have been if he'd made different choices. In November, exactly 1 year after Marcus was sentenced, I received a letter came through David's office.
That
Was the rule since Marcus wasn't allowed to contact me directly. I almost didn't open it, but curiosity made me do it. The letter said, "Mom, I know you probably won't read this letter. I know I don't deserve for you to read it, but I need to say this anyway.
sorry. Not
Because I got caught. Not because I'm in prison, but because I hurt you. Because I treated you like an object instead of my mother. Because I let greed and desperation turn me into someone I don't even recognize anymore. You were right to press charges against me. You were right to protect yourself. I was wrong about everything. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything from
you.
I just wanted you to know that I understand now what I did to you. And I'm truly sorry. I hope you're happy, wherever you are. I hope you found peace, Marcus." I read the letter 3
times.
I looked for manipulation, for hidden demands, for any sign. This was another trick, but I couldn't find anything like that. Just seemed tired, defeated, maybe genuine. I put the letter in a drawer and didn't respond. Maybe one day, years from now, after he served his time and rebuilt his life, maybe then we could talk. Maybe he would prove his remorse was real. But that day was not today, and I was okay with that. That evening, Sophie and I hosted a small dinner party. Linda came with her son and 2 grandchildren. David and Maria brought homemade pie. Barbara video called from Denver to join us virtually. We ate Sophie's amazing vegetable lasagna. We drank too much apple cider. We laughed until our stomachs hurt. Looking around my table at these women, none of them related to me by blood. All of them family by choice. I realized something important. Jessica had been wrong. I hadn't died alone and forgotten. I'd built a community of people who cared.
Ide.
Created a life rich with real relationships, and I'd never been happier. The doorbell rang as we were putting away dessert plates. I opened it to find a delivery person with a huge bouquet of daisies, my favorite flowers. Though I'd never told anyone here that the card said, "Thank you for showing us what courage looks like. Happy Thanksgiving." Your book club friends. I stood there holding the flowers.
Behind.
Me. I could hear laughter from my dining room, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete and total peace. So, that's my story. My son tried to steal my life, and everything I had.
Fought.
Back. It cost me my relationship with him, but it gave me something more valuable. My dignity, my freedom,
My self-respect.
Now, I want to ask you something. What would you have done? Would you have forgiven family, even if it meant losing your security? Or would you have stood your ground like I did? Leave your thoughts in the comments
Below.
and if this story meant something to you, please subscribe to Granny's Voice. I share more real stories about family justice and finding strength when you need it most. Remember this important lesson.
You teach people how to treat you.
Never let anyone, not even family, make you feel like you don't matter. You deserve respect. You deserve.
Dignity.
You deserve to be treated like a human being, not like a bank account. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who might be going through something similar. You're not alone, and you have the right to protect yourself.